right, Joe Hildebrandt's here with Michael Kroger. Please convince me.
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
That a bunch of senators waving their fingers at the CEOs of supermarkets is somehow going to change anything. Look, again, we can have a conversation about whether the Emerson thing does or doesn't move the needle, but can we all get over the idea that the Senate inquiry of somebody sitting and screaming at public companies does anything other than make a whole bunch of politicians feel like they're doing something?
Yeah, well, did you know there's actually a really big, strong body of work in psychological and psychoanalysis circles that shows that if you abuse people, make sure that there is no benefit whatsoever in them doing what you want them to do because you've already cast them as a pariah and told them that they're not welcome as part of society.
Correct.
Back them into a corner and make them think that everyone's going to hate them no matter what they do. Yep. That always produces a positive outcome for society.
Well, this is Jim Chalmers remaking capitalism.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily Jim Chalmers. I think the Greens are jumping up and down a bit, and I think the government is trying to sort of do the right thing. But again, I have been arguing publicly and privately for God knows how long now. Why wouldn't the government and unions and the SDA, which covers the supermarkets, is a really reasonable, smart union that believes in moderation, economic growth, employment, as well as of course higher wages and better conditions. But they would happily sit down with all the supermarket giants and say, right, why don't you apply a bit of price restraint at that end? If you can make that case and if you can assure we won't be worse off, we will apply some wages restraint as long as we're not worse off. The government, you can make sure that there's health, childcare, all the usual services so that workers get their benefit in economic ways. And you know what we could call it? We could call it an accord.
Yeah.
And it's already been done by Labor government, and there's, the template. It saved us from inflation last time. Why wouldn't you do that this time instead of just making them the whipping boy where there's no public relations, there's no corporate benefit for them now in acting.
But Michael, again, the reason I kind of roll my eye at all of this, and look, it's a wonderful distraction from the media, but it is this game that all governments play, but this government is particularly trying to perfect, which is the idea of we're in charge of everything awesome and they're in charge of everything bad, right? The interest rates didn't go up because of anything we did in the economy. It was that evil bloke who was running the Reserve Bank. There's nothing to do with the lower Australian dollar because of government policy that means when things are imported into the country, they cost more money, or when they're transported to the supermarket, they cost more money, or when the power bill is on, it costs more money. Now, again, are they, pumping up a bit here and there? Sure, every private company does because they're trying to get to a profit. But none of that conversation will be there. It's just going to be a bunch of CEOs being screamed at by politicians fighting for TikTok.
No, and we've seen all this before. But look, Paul, the only way this is going to be, the public is going to get any transparency or any sunlight in relation to this is if they publish the data with all the margins. What is a farmer getting for his carrots? What does it cost to get it to the, to the wholesaler? What margin do they put on? Cleaning the food, transporting the food. All the margins along the way, the taxes along the way. What does it cost? Everyone's clipping the ticket. So from the poor old farmer who gets his amount, what is the end retail price? Where is the ticket being clipped the most? That's the only way the fog of this will be lifted. Otherwise, we're all running around pointing the fingers everywhere. Everyone's blaming everybody else. No one has any clarity at all, financial clarity, on exactly who's right and who's wrong. And until such time as that's done, this is just a meaningless debate of everyone pointing the finger at each other. I might add, though, supermarkets are not the only retail businesses in this country. One of the reasons there's so much focus on Woolworths is because they were one of the lead arguers of the Voice campaign, giving $2 million to the Voice. They brought a whole lot of opprobrium upon themselves, a whole lot of, opposition to what they did. The board, they were publicising this very strongly. I think it was Woolworths, was it, that stopped selling Australia Day merchandise. I mean, this corporate citizen is offside with ordinary Australians, which is why so many people don't like them any longer. And so part of the reason they're in the gun is because this company is not A-grade popular in this country anymore amongst the working middle class who are their customers, mate.
Yeah, and again, that's why I thought there was an opportunity to sit down, and as Mike says, right, how can you continue to make a profit but not make the super bumper profits that you made during COVID while trouncing
it's a listed company, which means citizens and institutions are invested in the company making more money. So it's all this interrelated spaghetti that it's a lot easier for people to go, the evil company's just making massive profits. Yeah, there are people invested in them making profits.
Yes, exactly. But the point being, though, when you've got an inflationary crisis, you've got out-of-control inflation that's causing a spiralling interest rates, why when you sit down and say, right, we want you to still be profitable, but can you just suppress prices artificially for a little while? We'll take the hit on wages, and then when the inflation comes down to 3% or whatever, then, we'll back-end load that, or the gloves are off.
Well, they take your call.
That would have been...
But as complicated as that is, you know what we can do before that? Tell them to cut petrol tax, all right? Tell them to cut petrol tax, which they could do tomorrow. And if they're in a surplus, which they're probably going to get to for political reasons, as we told you last night, that will be the tax that they've increased on you driving around. Last one here. The seat of Wills, the seat, of course, that Bob Hawke at one point had, is now the latest battleground between the Labor Party and the Greens. It's an 8% margin, and the Labor Party would logically be able to hold on to it. However, current politics means the Greens are on a particular surge, but the Greens will only be able to take on this seat if the Liberal Party actually preferences them over Labor.
Yep.
Now, that shouldn't happen. But equally, I think Labor shouldn't preference the Teals in the seats where the Liberal Party are under particular threat. Michael, could that ever happen?
Peter Khalil is safe. I'll make this prediction now. Haven't had a wrong prediction for a long time, Paul. Khalil will win that seat. He got 38% of the primary vote. There's no way in the world the Liberal Party are going to preference the Greens after their disgusting display of anti-Semitism over the last couple of years. There is not one chance that the Liberal Party in Victoria or anywhere in the country will preference the Greens over Labor, even the most extreme Labor MPs. Like Wong in the Senate, etc., Tony Burke, etc., even they will get preferences ahead of the Greens. So Khalil is going to win, and the Greens should go the hardest because the more they stir up the Palestinian community, the more it turns the Jewish community against the Greens and a lot of other Australians of ethnic backgrounds that don't like this, drama that's being created in the streets of Jewish hatred in this country, and they think the Greens are involved in that. So this may backfire on the Greens quite badly, not only from the Jewish community, from other communities that just don't like the way the Greens are going about this. It's the Jews today. Who's to say it's not the Hindus tomorrow?